So it's been a while since we heard from NZXT about their Kraken AIO coolers, but today that's definitely changing. Today NZXT is launching their biggest update yet to the Kraken. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new Kraken 240 RGB. Alright, so let's start off with the naming first. Gone is the X and Z series naming. Now it's much more simplified, so you have Kraken and Kraken Elite. Kraken being the base variant and Kraken Elite being the more premium, better feature rich version. And this is available in both RGB and non-RGB, and so is the Elite version. So you'll have Kraken Elite and Kraken Elite RGB. It's available in 240, 280 and 360 millimeters. So you have a bunch of choices, depending upon your radiator length. What's changing, you might ask? This time around, there is no infinity mirror. Both Kraken and Kraken Elite have a LCD display. The Kraken base variant has a smaller and less brighter display, whereas the Kraken Elite has this really nice high quality display with better brightness and a sharper resolution. And the RGB fans are also changing. This time around, NZXT is shipping their new F Core RGB fans with both the Kraken and Kraken Elite RGB versions. And these new Core RGB fans are different from the past. Like the past fans had this ring design, whereas this Core RGB fans have their LEDs in the fan hub itself. And there are 8 LEDs there which are individually addressable. And these Core RGB fans are again optimized for radiator use. So they have high static pressure, they're very low noise, and are going to give you the best performance when it comes to radiators. And you can also use them in your case as case fans as well, because they have really good airflow. Talking about the Kraken, I have the Kraken 240 RGB here. This is available in white as well as black. The non-RGB version of the Kraken is only available in black, so there's no white variant there. And I have it with the core fans, and let's do an unboxing. Alright, so inside the box, you have the cooler itself and everything else you'll need to set this up and install the cooler. So you have the manual itself, which is really important. Don't throw it away, you'll need it when you install. It is compatible with AM4, AM5 as well as latest Intel 13 generation, and backwards compatibility is also there. It's also compatible with Threadripper, so TR4 socket compatibility is also here. And you've also got all the screws and mounting brackets for Intel as well as AMD, the standoffs. Basically everything is included. Few new things that you might notice if you've used a Kraken in the past is going to be the USB splitter for the motherboard USB, whereas you didn't get this in the past. This cable is going to act like a splitter for your motherboard USB. So instead of using 2 ports, you'll be only using 1. Now, there's also a RGB controller included in the box. This is external. This is a plastic RGB controller with 3 RGB channels. So you can connect up to 3 accessories, and it'll support a bunch of LEDs. And this is all compatible with NZXT cam. There is also the breakout cable. NZXT has foregone the USB port. There is no USB port on the pump anymore. It's just the new breakout cable. There is 1 port on the pump, and you insert this breakout cable, and as the name suggests, it breaks out into a bunch of things. One is going to be the power for the pump itself, which will connect to your motherboard, the PWM connector on your motherboard. There is a 3-in-1 fan splitter for the fans that are going to be on the radiator, so that's really nice. And there is also the USB port that will connect to the motherboard and SATA power to power the pump itself. Now on the RGB controller as well, you have the USB port and SATA power. So 2 USB ports will go into that splitter using only 1 port on your motherboard. Really simple in my opinion. And talking about the new Core F RGB fans, these also have a PWM connector and an NZXT RGB connector. This will go into the RGB controller, and this is all going to work flawlessly with NZXT cam. Talking about the hardware and specifications of this cooler, it's still based on Asus Gen 7 pump, so you're going to get a similar performance to previous Kraken coolers in terms of noise levels as well as cooling performance. There is pre-applied thermal paste on the cooler, so you'll not have to get a third-party one. That's really good in my opinion. Installing the cooler is really easy as well. I have an AM4 system. You could have an AM5 or Intel 13 generation system, and installation is going to be pretty easy. It hardly took me 10 to 15 minutes to get the cooler up and running, and that's how easy it is in my opinion. And for AM4, I think it's really easy. but again, do read the manual to get exact instructions on your system. Now let's talk about performance and testing. I'm testing the Kraken 240 RGB with my Ryzen 5 system. This is an AM4 based system. I have the Ryzen 5 3600 CPU with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I also have the ASRock B450M Steel Legend motherboard, and the graphics card is going to be the GTX 1080 Ti Asus ROG Strix Edition. Now I know the parts are kind of on the older side, but this is going to give you a good perspective on how the cooling performance is on older CPUs, which used to heat more. The newer CPUs coming out from AMD and Intel have better heat optimization, so do keep that in mind. And the Ryzen 5 3600 is notorious for overheating. So that's that. And as of the case, I'm using NZXT's H5 Flow case with the mesh front panel, but I have all the RGB fans. So I have two RGB fans in the front as well as one in the back. There is the new two F-core RGB fans on the top, and my radiator is mounted on the top. This is a 240mm radiator and it is supported on the top. Also, my GPU fan is running. So that's that. I had my tempered glass side panel off for testing just to get better results. If you do put on the tempered glass side panel, you might see a few degrees here and there. The difference is going to be there. I'm just letting you guys know my testing situation. Now talking about temperatures, for idle, I got about 39 degrees Celsius on my Ryzen 5 3600. For gaming and minimal load, I got about 65 to 67 degrees Celsius. And when I ran, Cinebench as well as Prime 95 stress test for about 10 to 15 minutes, the max temperature I recorded was 83 degrees Celsius. And these are really good numbers and very similar to last year and previous Kraken coolers, because the cooler is still based on ASRock Gen 7 pump. Talking about acoustics and noise levels, I think there's an improvement, but NZXT is not really mentioning any. So in terms of noise levels, the pump hardly makes any noise. Even at high RPMs like 2500 or 3000, it's barely audible. The fans are audible at their full speed, but if you use the silent configuration inside of NZXT Cam, I don't think you'll be able to hear the fans as well. And once you put on the tempered glass side panel, everything becomes acoustically sealed, and that's a really nice experience in my opinion, because your PC stays really quiet. And ASRock Gen 7 pump, I think, is still doing really good in terms of cooling performance as well as acoustics. Again, you want to hear the noise? Here are the noise level tests. Talking about the displays on the new Kraken, the Kraken base variant comes with a 1.54-inch display, again LCD, but this is going to be a lower end LCD display. The Kraken Elite comes with a really bright and high resolution display, which is going to be 2.34 inches in terms of the diameter, and it covers the whole circumference of the cooler itself and looks really good. And this Kraken base variant also has a decent display, but the brightness and resolution is lower, and the Kraken Elite supports 60 FPS, so your GIFs are going to be smoother, whereas the Kraken base variant has only 30 FPS support. But again, the display is still a display, and you can put up images and GIFs on it, and they're still going to look decent. It's just that this is a smaller display and the Kraken Elite has a brighter and bigger display. Now let's talk about NZXT Cam, because NZXT Cam I think is the heart and soul of the new Kraken 240 coolers. You have to customize that LCD display. Now to customize the LCD display, you'll have to go into the lighting section of NZXT Cam and you will see the Kraken LCD display there. You can change the brightness of the display, you can turn off the display as a whole, and you can also rotate the orientation of your display. So let's say you have a different case or you mounted it towards the front, your display might be tilted either ways. So you can change it using NZXT Cam. You just have to click on the option and line it up with your tubes. So see the orientation of your tubes and select that in NZXT Cam, and your display will be upright again. Now talking about customizing the display itself, you can put images, GIFs, have PC stats show up there like your CPU temperature, your GPU temperature, and there's a bunch of other effects as well like clock face, GIFs, images. There is also a carousel effect which will go through all the different stats one by one at a different time duration. You can change the time duration again in NZXT Cam. You can also customize the new F-core RGB fans. So there are 8 individually addressable RGB LEDs there, so you can customize the brightness, put on different effects, change colors for individual LEDs, change the direction of those effects as well as the speed of the effect. infinite RGB customization. I think it'll come down to your imagination. NZXT Cam has a lot of possibilities, a lot of options. It's just about going and exploring. So download the software. I'll leave it in the description down below. Check it out and you will be amazed with what you can customize in your PC. So that's NZXT Cam. Now let's talk about pricing for the new Kraken series coolers. The Kraken 240 base variant starts at $139. No RGB, nothing, just black non-RGB fans. Now if you want RGB, you'll have to spend $40 extra for this, the Kraken 240 RGB. This will retail for about $179. Again, for both black and white, you'll get the new F-Core RGB fans. And if you want to go up to the new Kraken Elite, you'll have to spend $239. That's going to get you the Kraken Elite with the non-RGB fans. Now, if you want RGB with Kraken Elite, you'll have to spend another $20 extra and you'll get the new F-Core RGB fans for $259. You can have the Kraken Elite 240. And again, for other radiator lengths like 280 and 360 mm, you'll have to spend a little bit extra. And I think the final cost can come down to $279 or $300 plus, depending upon which radiator length you get. So that's that. I'll leave all these linked down below so you can check pricing for individual coolers and stuff like that. So do visit the NZXT website, which is in the description down below, to check out exact pricing. Now, what do I recommend? Like, the Kraken 240, I think, is good enough for Ryzen 5 as well as Intel i5 CPUs and even Ryzen 7 and i7 CPUs. Now, if you want to overclock and really push your PC and you're doing lots of intense work, I do suggest going up to 280 or even 360 mm. If you have an i9 or Ryzen 9 CPU, you should get the 360 mm cooler. That's going to be your best option. Doesn't matter which one you get, RGB or non-RGB, you have to get 360 mm for i9 and Ryzen 9 CPUs, and 280 is going to be good for Ryzen 7 and i7 with overclocking. But this 240 base variant is good enough for Ryzen 5 and i5 CPUs, PCs that do heat up but don't heat up a lot. So if you're not overclocking and don't want the best performance numbers, get the new Kraken 240. Now, if you do want to spend less money, you can get NZXT's air cooler. You'll get RGB and you can also still get really good cooling performance. NZXT's T120 air cooler is also available in RGB and non-RGB, both black and white, and only retails for about $60, which is a really good deal in my opinion as well. So if you don't want to spend too much money, you can get the air cooler. The Kraken 120 is also available, so if you can see it in stock, you can buy that as well. That's also a really good cooler. I've reviewed that on my channel, and I feel like NZXT is going in the right direction with this new cooler design. No infinity mirror, I'm sad to see it go, but there is LCD displays on both Kraken and Kraken Elite, which is a good thing. And they've simplified their lineup. There is H1, H5, and H7, again available in both Flow and Elite versions. There's also going to be new H7 Flow RGB version, so that's going to come with the new F-Core fans, and there's also going to be Core fans available individually to buy. You can get a 3-pack with the RGB controller and put it in your Flow cases, whichever case you have. These new Flow fans are really good. Like, Core RGB fans are these new F-Core RGB fans are really good looking in my opinion. They have really bright lighting and good cooling performance as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys like the new Kraken 240 RGB. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, all your thoughts. I'll be there replying to you guys. And also leave this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. But with that being said, my name has been Yusuf. You guys have been awesome. Stay awesome, keep smiling, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.